Ever feel like you're shouting into the void with your website, you know, putting in all this work, creating awesome content, but it's like no one even knows you're out there? It's the classic SEO struggle, right? How do we get noticed in this crazy digital sea of websites?
It's a crowded space for sure.
It really is. So today, we're diving deep into the world of SEO tools, specifically looking at some cool alternatives to a pretty popular one, Screaming Frog. And our guide for this deep dive is this article, 7 Best Screaming Frog Alternatives You Must Try 2024.
Lots to unpack there.
There really is. Why are so many SEO folks looking for alternatives? What's the deal? What's Screaming Frog missing?
Well, you're right. It's a good question to ask because a lot of people are looking for alternatives. Something like 65% of SEO professionals are actively searching for new tools.
65%. Wow.
Yeah, it's a big number.
That's more than half. So it's not just about maybe finding a cheaper option. It sounds like there's a real need for different tools, different approaches. So what's the deal with Screaming Frog? What are some of its pain points?
So Screaming Frog, it's kind of like that old reliable desktop computer you might have. It still works, but it might be missing some of those bells and whistles that you get with the newer models.
I feel that.
For one thing, it's not cloud-based.
Oh, okay.
So if you're working on SEO with a team, maybe you've got a remote team, things can get a little tricky.
Yeah, that makes sense. No easy sharing, no real-time updates or anything like that.
Yeah, you got it. And then there's the interface. Some might say it's a little like stepping back in time.
So not the most intuitive.
Not quite. And then, of course, there are the limitations of the free version.
Right. The article mentioned something about crawling limits.
Exactly. So with the free version, you can only crawl 500 URLs.
Okay.
So for small websites, that might be fine. But if you're working with a larger site, need to do any kind of really in-depth analysis, you'll probably hit that limit pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck. Either you pay a premium or you're missing out on important data. Not ideal.
Not ideal.
So this is where those alternatives come in. The article highlighted some pretty interesting ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of them, you know, they actually kind of surpass Screaming Frog in some pretty key areas, like especially when we're talking about speed, the kind of features they offer, even just how they present data.
Okay, well, I'm all about efficiency. And, you know, especially for anyone listening who's new to this and might be a little intimidated, one that stood out to me was Xenu's Link Sleuth. Just because, hello, free and unlimited link checking, sign me up.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for someone who doesn't want to shell out a ton of money.
It's a really good place to start. Think of it like a regular checkup for your website. Just make sure there's nothing too messed up, you know, like broken links or any kind of errors that could be hurting you.
Okay, so it's like a quick scan to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay. Then there's Spatibo. And this one seems very like data-driven, which I'm all about. What makes this one stand out?
Yeah, so Spatibo is all about using Google's own insights. So it's almost like having a direct line to how Google sees your website, which is kind of cool. Plus, it'll actually show you what your site looks like on search engine results pages, you know, both on a desktop and mobile.
Oh, wow. So you get to see behind the curtain a little bit.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then we have kind of the heavy hitter, refs. And this is a big one, especially when it comes to backlink analysis.
Right. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of backlinks, this is the one. This is a tool that has analyzed, get this, over 35 trillion backlinks.
Well, 35 trillion. What?
That's a lot of data.
That's an insane amount of data. I don't even think I can comprehend that.
More than you could ever imagine.
I believe it. So what kind of edge does that give someone having that kind of data at their fingertips?
Imagine being able to see exactly which websites are linking to your competitors.
Okay.
And then on top of that, understanding what makes those links strong.
Right.
And then, you know, taking that and applying it to your own site.
That's amazing.
That's the kind of power we're talking about.
Okay, so it's like having a competitive edge. Like you can see what's working for everyone else and be like, all right, let me try that.
It's like a map. It's like having a detailed map of your competitor's SEO strategy.
Wow. Okay, so that's a refs. We've got Xenu, kind of the free and easy to use, Spatibo, the data-driven one, refs for all the backlink research. But wait, there's more. There are more alternatives.
Oh, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more out there.
There are. So we're going to rapid fire to do some of these other contenders.
Yeah.
First up, NetPeak Spider. Now, this sounds like the workhorse. Like, this is the one you want if you've got a massive, massive website, right?
Yeah, NetPeak Spider efficiency, versatility. If you're on Windows, if you're on Mac, it can crawl huge sites, and it can do it quickly.
And then we have SERPstat. Now, this seems like the multi-tool of SEO tools, right?
Yeah.
Keywords, backlinks, PPC, that's pay-per-click advertising for anyone who's like,
Mhm.
what is that?
Yeah. If you want one tool that can kind of handle it all, SoupStat's a good one to look into.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of SEO.
I like that.
All right. Then we've got pre-render. Now, this one's interesting because this is for all those websites out there that are really JavaScript heavy,
Oh, yeah.
which, if anyone doesn't know, JavaScript's awesome, makes things look great, all the fancy stuff. But it can be a little tricky for SEO.
It can.
So how does pre-render come into play there?
Well, JavaScript, it's great for users because it creates those interactive elements, but search engines, they have a harder time understanding it. So pre-render basically helps Google see everything on your site, even those more dynamic parts.
Oh, so it's like a translator almost.
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
That's cool. So it's translating all the cool stuff on your website so that Google doesn't miss it.
Exactly.
And last but definitely not least, scrutiny. And this one, shout out to all my Mac users out there. This one's for you.
Yep. Scrutiny is great for in-depth analysis. It also puts a big emphasis on accessibility, which is becoming more and more important.
Oh, absolutely. And when we're talking about accessibility, we're talking about making sure that everyone, regardless of ability, can use the website, right?
That's exactly right. And scrutiny will make sure your site is up to par. And, not only is that great for your users, but it actually sends positive signals to search engines.
It's a win-win.
Win-win.
I like it. So we've got a tool, it seems like, for every need, every budget.
A lot to choose from.
It's a lot. So with all these choices, where do we even begin? How do we choose?
Well, that's where this article is really great because they actually put together this super helpful comparison chart.
Oh, nice.
That breaks down like all the free and paid features of each tool.
Okay.
So it's kind of like having a personal shopper for your SEO toolkit.
I love that because, budget is always a factor, right?
Well,
So let's say, hypothetically, someone's like, okay, I'm ready to invest. I want unlimited URLs. Give me the premium features. What's going to give me the most bang for my buck?
yeah.
What would you say?
So if you're ready to go all in, definitely take a look at Spatibo and Ahrefs.
Okay.
They've got those premium features, but they do come with that monthly subscription.
Right. Makes sense. But if someone's like, okay, hold on. I'm not ready to commit. I want to test the waters a little bit. Free trials, are those a thing?
Yes. And actually, NetPeak, Spider, and Scrutiny, they both have free trials.
Oh, perfect.
So that's a great way to just kind of get your hands dirty, see what the tool feels like before you commit to that subscription.
Always a good idea to try before you buy, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, one thing I thought was really cool, the article also dives into some common questions that people have about these tools.
Yeah.
And honestly, these are things that I've wondered myself.
Oh, for sure.
Like, how important is crawling speed?
Right.
Does it really make a difference?
So crawling speed, it's really important, especially if you have a bigger website.
Okay.
It's kind of like, if you're thinking about like walking through a small town versus navigating like a huge city.
Right, right.
A slow crawl means you could be working with data that's outdated and then you miss out on opportunities.
Yeah, because everything online moves so fast.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening, they're like, okay, I have a massive website, or they just really value efficiency, what should they be looking at? Which ones are like the speed demons?
So if you need speed, SEMrush and Ahrefs, those are your front runners.
Okay.
They can analyze millions of pages, like in hours, not days.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
It's like they're built for those who want to work quickly, which I appreciate.
For sure.
Another thing, and maybe this is just me, but I find that the way that data is presented can make or break a tool for me.
Oh, 100%.
Like, if I'm just looking at rows and rows of numbers,
Yeah.
I'm going to get a headache.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
It's too much.
Totally. Data's useless if you can't understand it.
Exactly.
And that's where a tool like Sitebulb, it really shines. Instead of just, throwing all these numbers at you, it uses these really cool visualizations.
Oh, nice.
So think charts, graphs, heat maps. It just makes it so much easier to see the trends, figure out what you need to work on.
Okay.
It's like the difference between, looking at a blurry map versus having like a high-definition satellite image.
Okay, I can visualize that.
Yeah.
And I can see how that would be so helpful for SEO because it can be so complex.
There can be a lot.
It can be a lot.
Yeah.
Now, for all those businesses out there, maybe they're not targeting a global audience. Maybe they're more like local.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any tools that are really good for local SEO?
Definitely. Moz Local, that is going to be your best friend.
Okay.
It is designed specifically to help you rank higher in those local search results.
Got it.
So think of it like your Google My Business best friend
Okay.
helps you optimize your profile, manage your citations, track your rankings in your local area.
So if you want to dominate in your town, Moz Local is the way to go.
That's the one.
Got it. And, It's interesting because I'm realizing as we're going through these,
Mhm.
each of these tools really carves out its own little niche within the SEO landscape, right?
Yeah, they all have their own like little specialties.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to just think about your needs.
Right.
What are you using this for? What are your goals? Because there's no right answer. There's no magic tool.
You got to figure out what works for you.
Exactly.
Now, I want to circle back to backlinks just for a second because I know we touched on refs,
Yeah.
but are there any other tools that really excel in backlink analysis?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that kind of a ref's domain?
So Ahrefs is definitely a powerhouse,
Yeah.
but there are a couple other ones that are worth mentioning.
Okay.
SEMrush, that's another one that has really robust backlink analysis. And one of the really great things that a lot of these tools will do is not only can you see who's linking to you, but you can also see which of those links are really good, high quality, and then maybe more importantly, which ones could be hurting you.
Oh, interesting.
Like toxic backlinks, you don't want those.
So having a tool that can analyze the quality, the trustworthiness
Yes.
of a backlink is so crucial.
Yeah, because it's not just about getting as many links as possible. It's like, you don't want your website associated with a bunch of spammy, shady websites.
Right.
The same thing goes for backlinks, quality over quantity every time.
It's like building a good reputation online, right?
Right.
You want to be linked to from all the good places.
Exactly. You want those quality connections. And using those tools can really help you figure out which ones to go after.
Very cool. It's like networking, but for your website.
There you go.
I like that. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've looked at what Screaming Frog kind of struggles with, looked at these amazing alternative, 7 of them,
7.
and answered some, I think, really burning questions that people might have if they're just dipping their toes into this world.
Definitely. And we talked about speed and, how important the visuals
All
are.
that good stuff.
All those things matter.
Yeah. Now, before we wrap things up completely, the article mentioned one final little SEO tactic, and I got to ask you about it because, honestly, it sounds kind of intense. They called it parasite SEO.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever used this approach?
So it's definitely a little bit more, I'd say, like advanced, maybe even a little bit controversial, but it can be really effective if you do it the right way.
Okay.
It's all about leveraging other really high-ranking websites to boost your own rankings.
Oh, interesting.
So you're kind of like borrowing a little bit of SEO juice from sites that are already doing really well in your niche.
So it's about being strategic about where you're trying to, get in there
It's very strategic.
and piggyback off of someone else's success, but in a way that benefits both of you, ideally, right?
Yeah, it's not about being spammy or trying to game the system.
Right.
It's all about finding those win-win situations where your content can actually add value to another website and you, in turn, get to benefit from their audience and their authority.
It sounds like a delicate dance,
It is.
but it can be powerful if you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. It sounds like one of those things where, do your research, proceed with caution.
Exactly.
But hey, if you're feeling adventurous,
Give it a try.
why not? A little SEO homework assignment for everyone listening.
Yeah.
But I think even if parasite SEO isn't for you, if that feels a little too, out there, the biggest takeaway for me is there are so many options now.
I know.
You don't have to be stuck with just one tool that tries to do everything anymore.
Exactly. And I love that. You can really find what works for you and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Because there really is, like you said, a tool for everyone and they all have their own strengths. So if you're all about speed, if you really like to dig into the visuals, local SEO is your thing. There's something out there for you.
It's all about finding those tools that make you feel empowered.
Yeah.
And you can actually understand what's going on
That's the key.
and improve your website.
Yeah, it shouldn't feel overwhelming. It should feel exciting.
Exactly. And maybe a little bit fun.
A little bit of fun.
Why not? Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up for this deep dive. Hopefully you enjoyed this little exploration into the world of Screaming Frog alternatives and maybe learned a thing or two that you can apply to your own SEO adventures.
Yeah, and remember, SEO is like a long game.
Oh, yeah.
So be patient, keep learning. There's always something new to discover.
Until next time, happy optimizing, everyone.
Happy optimized.